Sometimes we want to elaborate, understand things. W- But at the end of the day, in my opinion, what what's worth more is what we experience. And I was thinking about the concept of past, present, and future. And if we want, we can elaborate. We can look at what the past is, what the present is, what the future is. Does it exist? Does the past exist? The future exists? Does it? Sometimes people think that the past it doesn't exist, exists only in the present. But or maybe it's just one thing, maybe it's an illusion. I mean, if we look at quantum physics, there's another vision that's even more complex. But let's leave all that for another time. These thoughts, even within quantum physics, um, or um, we it's said that a Buddha knows the three times, and you could ask yourself, how can he know the future if it hasn't happened yet? But this aside, I mean, there is a direct experience. We are here now, and we have an experience of what has happened and what is happened, and we have an idea, we have this perception of what will come. Naturally, we have this way of living our life um, through through time. We have this path that moves forward, and there's certain aspects within this that I think can help us. Let's start from the definition of past, present, and future. One definition, when we look at the different philosophical schools of Buddhism, I mean, there are different views, different definitions, but when I studied, I liked this one. It says the past. There are causes that have already met conditions and as a consequence have given their results. The present, these are causes that are meeting their conditions and giving the results, and the future are causes that have not yet met conditions and so have not yet given results. In other words, the past is a seed that had the water and it germinated and sprouted, and the present is the seed that is sprouting, and the future is the seed that has not yet sprouted. This is the view that's given of the three times. But what happens is, in our daily way of living, we have this tendency of spending a lot of our time, all of our our inner space. I mean, do we spend most of our time thinking of the past, present, or future, in your opinion? If we were to divide these three times in two categories, the present and then past and future, we spend more time thinking about our past and our future, where we think about what has happened and we imagine what can happen. Desire itself um, responds to that which isn't what we want. And we spend a lot of our time here. And I don't think that it's something wrong or that it hurts, looking at the past or imagining the future. But at the beginning of all of this, there's an initial division. How do we face our present? Because the present transforms into past, and it's how we live our past, how we're living our future is also how our future evolves. So, first of all, there's this attitude, an unhealthy attitude, where we have a kind of arrogance. Maybe someone will say it's not arrogance, but I see it as such. This attitude of having an idealized image of how things should be and somehow expect things to happen the way I imagine them. So we're in a place, we meet someone, something that has to do with ourselves, and the world around us, the very situations we live. I mean, we judge, right? Oh, it's normal, it's natural, and within this judgment is accompanied by an idealized image of how things should be or not be. So I meet someone, and as I'm talking to that person, as I see that person, I have my image, my idea of how that person is, of what that person should be. And what happens is when that person doesn't correspond to what I think he or she should be, I'm upset. I say, oh, this person did something they shouldn't have done, or there's something wrong with this person. When we imagine a situation and as we're living it, we project our own image um, this, of how things should be. And we do this towards ourselves as well, how we should be. And then in our own experience, we see that that reality that we're living doesn't correspond to what we had projected. We look for the guilty one. We victimize ourselves. We say that something's gone awry, something's wrong. And when I live this something in the present moment, that something that I've idealized, and it doesn't correspond to what we think it should be, what I think it should be, and I don't live that well, I mean that becomes our past. And as soon as it ends, it stays in my mind as a memory, because when something finishes, I mean, what is the past of today? Mostly our memories. What has stayed in our minds as memories. And on this, I remember when I read 1984 by Orwell, and there was the minister of truth or the minister of lies, and this fact that every day they would rewrite history to make sure that things would be remembered, um, to say that the big brother had a perfect understanding of the past. And the past of today is nothing other than memories. So when I live a situation, when I live it badly, it stays in my memory as a negative experience. And when we see where there's some kind of block or tension, it, but then that situation ends, because once we've lived it, it's over. But we still, it stays with us in our. It stays with us in our memory. It stays with us in our feelings. There's a part of that past that stays with us. So when our present is lived badly, our past is lived badly. When when I'm when I'm living a present situation badly, what happens to the future? I'm seeing it through those eyes, inevitably. So I'm regretting my past. I'm afraid of the future. And this blurs my mind and keeps me from seeing my present. I'm blocked by what has happened in the past, and I'm also blocked looking towards the future, and I stay between these two feelings. For me, one key, it's an aspect that I've talked about many times. We are not able to relate to something or someone without having this idealized image. We're not able, um, it's useless to say, no, I want to see you beyond the image I have of you. Sometimes you see two people, no, I love you for who you are. I don't want to project the image I have of you onto you. I want to love you for who you are. I mean, we're not able. It's not possible. Me, you, we're not possible. It's wonderful to have this intention to want to see others beyond ourselves, but it's just not possible. The problem at the end of the day is not the fact that we have an idealized image that we project onto things and to people. The problem is not being aware of this. The fact that we expect that person, that situation, the object, what we're living, needs to correspond to this idealized image that we have. I have that expectation. I have that expectation, and that's where we are wrong. So I have my image that is the fruit of all my past experiences, my knowledge, the what I have inherited culturally, and the context in which I grew up. It's the experiences that I've lived, and so many things. And I live based on all that. I live and experience in a certain way, but it's fundamental to have this awareness that I am living within my own paradigm. And this is how I see things. It's not how things are. And with this, we're not saying that reality doesn't exist. It's only in our head. Absolutely not. Reality is it's there, but it doesn't exist for each one of us independently of ourselves. And it is inevitably the fruit of everything that I am. It's fundamental for us to understand that when I face a situation, I have my image. I should take away this expectation, this kind of arrogance that that says that things should be as I see them. When we're able to see the present like this, then we can apply this to the past. And here, there's a fundamental point, and which is we need to start with ourselves, and then ourselves towards others. This attitude of compassion and love towards ourselves. I don't know exactly the how and the why. We can spend hours talking about it, but it seems to me that our culture in particular, we have this expectation that we should be perfect, pure beings. And so when we recognize within ourselves our own uh, um, our own defects, we feel that we shouldn't be like that. Am I wrong? This feeling is there. Why? I don't know. But the point is, I am. the result of everything that I've lived up till now. I'm the result of the cultural context, what I've inherited from my ancestors, my parents, social context, the experiences I've lived, the information I've received, the education I've received, an infinite number of things. And in front of all that I've lived, I can be only this. I am inevitably this, which doesn't mean I can't be different. But first of all, this first step is accepting ourselves for what we are, and to not be in opposition, not go against what we are, which doesn't mean that everything's fine, because this needs to be united with a healthy idealized image, what I want to become, not what I should already be. There's an enormous difference. One thing is generating an idealized image of what I should be, and it's something else to generate an idealized image of what I want to become. I should already be a Buddha, but I'm not, and I'm upset about that. I want to become a Buddha. That's something else, because if I'm not able to accept what I am, I will keep pointing my finger at one person, another person, victimizing myself. Oh, this shouldn't be like this, that shouldn't be like that. But I don't know why. Sometimes it seems that once we blame someone, it's almost like it's enough for the situation to be resolved. And instead, it's not like that. Once we see that there's something that's not right, we need to accept that suffering, that situation. We accept our jealousy, our anger, accept who we are, with affection, with respect. But at the same time, we need to say, okay, this reaction that you've had, this attitude is a result of everything they've lived, but I have a choice now to do differently, and I want to be different. So I direct myself towards what I want to become, and that's why in Buddhism we talk about the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas, we shouldn't just keep them in our visualizations or read stories about them. First of all, it's an aspiration for ourselves, these bodhisattvas. I want to be a bodhisattva. It, even first bhumi, fourth bhumi. But I want to be a bodhisattva, reach this state, but with conviction, because I want to become a Buddha, a being that is not focused exclusively on himself, that acts with love and compassion and altruism, and dedicates his own existence and development towards serving others. I want to be a bodhisattva. And to become a bodhisattva, I need what I am. What resources do I need? My past and my present, what I have today. But to use these resources well, to see them as resources, because many of us see these as obstacles to Buddhahood, and not as a resource to Buddhahood. Each one of us, we are a resource, a very powerful resource to become a bodhisattva, to become a Buddha, to do so much. But to recognize these resources and to use them well, first of all, we need to take another step before going towards the future, which is making peace with our past. But as I said before, starting even before with making peace with our present, they go together. This first step is we accept ourselves in our present. We recognize that we are a fruit of this infinite number of interactions, and I take away the burden of the idealized image of what I should be and what I shouldn't be. I don't know if that's clear. It's not easy, but it's possible. It's a process that needs to be repeated again and again. And when I'm able to accept myself with affection and see this present moment and not be in opposition to it, or I stop resisting the present, it's like imagine, for example, being at the sea and there's a wave. I don't resist it. I learn learn how to ride that wave without being pummeled by the wave. But if I'm trapped in my past because it's not what should have happened, and I keep resisting to this present moment, and I keep looking for the one to blame. When we resist to what's happening, what we're experiencing, one tendency is looking for someone to blame and victimizing ourselves. And as long as we stay in this dynamics, we're blocked, and we reinforce those same dynamics. So we accept the present moment, where we stop opposing and resisting what's happening. And in front of this, we project that same acceptance towards our past. And here, without getting into details now, last December we talked about this during the Tonlan practice, the mind training Lochen teachings. This Tonlan, the giving and taking. One day I talked about the giving and taking with ourselves. Go back and find those teachings. It's really important. It's fundamental for us to take up a sincere process, which is not always easy, but so beneficial. Being able to be at peace with our past, making peace with our past, look back at what happened, accept our past, accept others, and be able to find our own resources to be at peace with our past without continuing to be in opposition to our past. And when we see, it's interesting because there are these purification practices, for example, like the mantra Vajrasattva and many other practices of purification. And often we see these practices of purification how can I say, this idea of taking away our negative karma, and, and up to a point that makes sense. But the fundamental, um, what's fundamental about these purification practices is it's about being at peace with our past. If we look at the meaning of the mantra of Vajrasattva, for example, it talks about accepting our own nature. The mantra doesn't talk about all the negative karma that I've accumulated and now I need to release myself from that. It's not about, self-flagellation and blaming. I remember once, many years ago, someone in Brazil, I was living in Brazil, and someone was doing a retreat on Vajrasattva with prostrations and started having knee problems because and this person would hit his knees on the on the floor, and he would say, good, because I need to take away this negative karma. In the end, this person had to have knee surgery. um, no, the practices of purification, if we go to look at the meaning, I mean, the 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 specific, I mean, the translation of the mantra itself has nothing to do with how bad I am and let me suffer so I can purify and take away all this negative karma. Because if suffering was enough to purify, then our practices would be much different. We're so creative. I'm sure we could find many other kinds of practices. But the actual meaning of the mantra of Vajrasattva has to do with embracing our own nature and accepting our nature as an interdependent being, where we take away the burden of this idealized image of what we should be, not what we, and also create an idea of not what we should already be, but what we want to become. And it's not enough to do it once. There are things that Buddha Shakyamuni taught, and over the centuries they were seen as being so important that they were then converted into rituals. And there are two in particular that were transformed into rituals that are repeated over and over again. One is making peace with our past. These practices of purification and also celebrating our past. These are two fundamental attitudes. Ideally, we should do it as the minimum. I say really minimum, just once a week. Once a week, maybe 2, 3, 7, at least once a week. If we're able, once a day, even better. We should see what has come, what has happened, and we say, okay, this didn't really go that well. I don't want to repeat these experiences or these feelings. Oh, this went very well. I want to I rejoice for what's happened, because this part of joy is fundamental. But joy, feeling joy, is also a habit. It's a way of seeing, it's a way of interacting, but it's a habit. I remember once someone came to Lama Ganchen, went to Lama Ganchen together with someone else, and, and promised beautiful things. I want to offer this, let's do this, let's do that. And for a day, they're all dreaming of something. And at a certain moment, and there was nothing. Okay, the person went back on his word, and many people were upset about it. Oh, he promised this and that, and yet he didn't do anything. And then someone said, no, we need to thank him. At least this person gave us joy for quite a few days. We were all so happy these days. So this person gifted us this joy. It's a question of habit. It's an attitude that we have, and joy is an attitude. But it's something that needs to be created, cultivated. And sadness is also a habit. So it's fundamental to look back at what has happened day after day, week after week, and not allow ourselves to accumulate things that have not been digested. Because after a while, we have we have intestinal problems. We put so much in without facing it. We say, oh, we don't want to open that door, and we just keep stuffing things in there. We keep living that future through that negative past. But let's remember that none of us is able to live our present moment in a way that is free from our past. So it's fundamental to make peace with our past. When we have, for example, maybe you need to do something, and you have like an infinite number of documents that you need to organize, um, how should you organize yourself? From the oldest or the most recent? The most recent. You know, you need to create in that present moment little by little, and then so we clean our present moment, and little by little we go backwards. And the same thing with the practices of purification. It's not about doing oh Vajrasattva samaya malu pala Vajrasattva teno patita dira me bawa sutukayo me bawa subukayo me bawa anuratu me bawa. Oh, look at that beautiful film that I saw. This no, it's about being at peace with our past, saying, I lived this, I accept myself, I cultivate this feeling of love towards myself. We need this attitude of love and compassion, what we talked about before, where we accept our present. We see that we're the result of this infinite number of causes and conditions, and we embrace ourselves. And all those who are involved. So one of the most powerful methods to purify negative karma is understanding that the one who did the action, the one who lived the action and the action itself, they are all empty of inherent existence. They are, in other words, interdependent. And in front of the causes and conditions that were present, it couldn't be different. And we take away this burden of that idealized image of what should have been. We stop opposing and we start accepting. At the same time, we can say, I don't want to repeat this experience. I don't want to go back to that. So in this present moment, it's lived with this awareness of the past and also the awareness of the future. It's very important to live the present moment, but this present should be lived with the awareness of the past, where we learn, we see what we should do, what we should, what we shouldn't do, what's good to repeat, what's good to not repeat. We shouldn't live as if the past didn't exist. That at the same time, we should this awareness of the future, where I want to go, who I want to become. And here we need to allow ourselves to dream, to desire, to take away this burden. Let me repeat it once again. This weight, this expectation of how I should be, how the world should be, how others should be. Let's relax. Let's allow ourselves to be happy. A little bit like Forrest Gump. A little bit of Forrest Gump is not bad. It doesn't hurt. If we don't dedicate time and space, if we don't use the valid tools to be at peace with our own past, this won't just happen. And this is not in general. This has to do with each and every person in every situation, in every place. And as we cultivate this attitude, maybe we see that there's an attitude that wasn't positive. I can ask forgiveness, but it's not important that you forgive me. What's important is I see the negative interaction, and I learn from that, and I I commit myself to not repeat that same attitude. So even if you don't forgive me, I can be at peace with myself because I've learned. So it needs time, it needs space. And in the same way, with that same level of importance, it's fundamental for us to celebrate our past. To get to the end of the week and ask ourselves what went well. Oh, I was in that situation and I was able to stay patient. How wonderful. Or this happened, that happened. I lived this beautiful experience. I learned this. I was able to do something else. Remember the good things. Rejoice for those things and thank and celebrate the beautiful things that happens. To thank, rejoice. Maybe this idea of rejoicing seems far. You need to rejoice. What does that mean? What do I need to do? Celebrate is a little easier for us to understand. But we need to, so we need to celebrate the good things. Otherwise, we just keep staying in this dynamic of complaining and victimizing ourselves and blaming. No, stop. Let's get let's go beyond all of that. Let's accept ourselves. We 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 make peace with our present, with our past, and our future, and we celebrate ourselves. We celebrate others. Celebrate what we have together. And when these fundamental actions, when these ceremonies become rituals, it's their purpose is to help us remember, and we should try to avoid the rituals being only ceremonies or rituals. No, we need to understand their function. And if we were to summarize all of this, a fundamental point for me is to accept the being at to be at peace with our past, our present, to not be in opposition to our past or present, but at the same time, direct ourselves towards the future that we want. So I accept my past and my present, and I direct myself towards the future, remembering that there's only this present moment. Otherwise, we create idealized image of the future, but we don't live the present in um, in coherence with the future. If I want to get somewhere, I need to direct myself. I need to go in that direction. Sometimes when we talk about the future, we're afraid of taking a leap in the dark, taking decisions, things that we are not sure about. But the only alternative is to not live at all. Because even when if I repeat when I repeat something again and again, I think that I'm in this comfort zone, but every new action is uncertain, really. So I don't think we should be afraid. We should just walk with the awareness of where we want to go, with the love towards ourselves, love towards others, and the humbleness of not expecting um, not expecting people or places or things or ourselves to be the way we think they should be. That's all, okay? To do it gradually with the situations that we have at work, with friends, with our family, in every moment. Don't wait for that mystical, magical moment. Because even when we talk about realizations, sometimes there's this idea that, oh, I had I had a I had an auspicious sign. I had a vision or a special dream. A short time ago, someone said, "There's something that's wrong with me." And why? The person was very worried because I. So I've been practicing for years, taking many pilgrimages, and I don't feel anything. And people talk to me about mystical visions and strange feelings, but I don't feel anything. What's wrong with me? And talking with this person, there's nothing that is not. There's nothing wrong with you. It's, since you started practicing and following this path, do you feel more stable? Do you have more awareness? Yes, yes. Well, what more do you want? When we talk about realizations are not strange, um, strange visions. If you want strange visions, there are certain mushrooms that can give you that. Um, and I don't mean that they don't exist. Visions and auspicious signs, etc. But the objective is to reach a state of satisfaction, peace, patience, love, compassion. This is our main. These are our main objectives. In the Lojong teachings, for example, the five powers. These five points to see, these five markers to see if we're practicing well or not. These five indications, these five markers to see if we're practicing well or not. To see if we're following our spiritual path well or not. these 5 markers, it's not about how clairvoyant we are or how many visions we've seen, uh, without taking anything away from those kinds of experiences. But these 5 markers are how much how unbalanced I am by negative experiences. How much can I open up my heart towards others? How much love and compassion do I have? How much altruism do I have? How 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 am I able to integrate virtuous activities in my daily life? How how much is my daily life integrated to virtuous actions? And how able am I to avoid non-virtuous activities and attitudes? And how how much how am I able to integrate the Mahayana path in my daily life? Generosity, patience, enthusiastic effort, um, concentration, patience, concentrations, and wisdom. These are the 5 markers to see um, if I am progressing along the path or not. And this is what we should be looking at in our daily life. And we can't wait for a day, who knows when. And I'm trying, I, so I was trying to highlight one aspect, and I don't mean to um, uh, um, I don't mean to discredit or minimize the importance of these other markers, um, such as these auspicious signs, etc. I mean, some people have those more than others. Um, I mean, there are those who live their lives in a kind of, mystical way. Others are not. But if we really want to see if we're practicing well or not, we should look at these 5 markers. That's it for today.
Drove Michel tautu ne gyur chi kyo kuntu yanda lama da drame chiki pela long ching sadan lamge yunte rabzo ne dorje changi kopa nyur tob sho nimodele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Nintzen takto delekpe kuncho sumki chingi lob kuncho sumki ngodrubutsol kuncho sumki trashisho.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Have a very good day, everyone.